Hey folks, how's it going? The app that you are seeing on the screen is a React application just for it's a calendar-like or calendar style application where you can see here, you can see the events on the calendar grid, and then there's also a week navigation. Okay, so weekly navigation, let's say go to this one, say Monday, Tuesday up to Sunday, it shows all of the events, okay, of the user. And then you can also navigate to other week, navigate, and then click today. It shows, go back to the current week. And then the events can be seen. Let's say if you want to see the details of this event, just click it and then shows the event. And then click it again, shows. You can also create an event like this, test event, save it, and then shows it there. Click it, and then it shows it again. Okay? So it's like a Google-like, although it's a simple calendar application. Okay, it's React app. So in terms of the functionality, this is, something like it's a calendar, obviously, all right? Sorry for that. The problem in this application is that, let's open the DevTools. The problem is, this is a quite slow app. I don't know if you can notice the video, but here, open the Chrome DevTools, navigate to the Performance tab. Here, you can see in this section the INP, or the interaction next paint, okay? If you click a button, let's say here, it shows the INP, or the interaction to next paint, which is 360 milliseconds. When you close it again, it shows another red, which is 352 milliseconds. Open again, 352, close, open the create event dialog, close. It's quite slow, really slow. If you go to the next week of events, it still slows. And these are slow because the standard or best practice for the INV, when you click let's say there's an event triggered, and then the interaction to next paint is basically the latency when the user clicks to this button until the browser paint that changes. It should be less than 200 milliseconds. But here, it's 300 plus. That's the reason why it displays red, because it's more than 200 milliseconds, where if the INP is more than 200 milliseconds, you can feel the slowness. Okay, I can really feel it, right? So this is not good. And as a React developer, which I was the one who built this application, it's my responsibility to debug the performance issue and fix it. So as a React developer, there are two tools that I use for analyzing a performance issue. One is the Chrome performance. The Chrome profiler, which is here. So we're already in the performance tab. We can use the profiler and then click here, close it, and then stop. So we record the sessions, and within that sessions, it will track all of the information that run at that time. Okay, it tracks all of the scripts, and then the paint, the CSS changes, something like the browser rendering pipeline. Okay. And here you can clearly see here that in this click event, it took 269 milliseconds. Why it took 260 milliseconds? It shows the informations at the bottom. So it's a call stack. So it shows this, lots of information, okay? And this is a long test. You can see it's also red because it's long test. Then going to this one, by the way, this is the flame graph. It also shows 226 milliseconds. Okay, so the Chrome profiler, you can use this to debug the performance issues. But what if I want to see, because this is a React, and React app is built of many components, React components. What if I want to see the rendering, the commits, the layout effects, passive effects, something like that? Because the Chrome profiler is good, but this is a general tool. It doesn't only capture the render events from React, but also some events, some timings. If you want a specific information like the renders, you need a new extension, and that's the React DevTools. So this is the extension. So we can use this to analyze the component hierarchies and also debug the performance issue. But, you know, the Chrome profiler, to be honest, if you're a user, new user of Chrome profiler, flame graph, this is a flame graph. This is somewhat confusing. This is a confusing UI, to be honest. Okay? It's not a friendly user experience. And that's the reason why Chrome added an AI assistant, okay? Where you can click here, right click, then debug with AI, start a chat. Then here, you can use this chat panel to analyze this event. Let's say, why is this slow? So got it. And then it will analyze the data. And then let's just wait. And then the slowness of your experience is due to a 295 milliseconds interaction latency, INP, triggered by click event. The interaction resulted in high React rendering costs during the interaction. So it shows here, React performed a synchronous render of the week calendar component. Root cause, the week calendar, and its children, something like that. So it shows that the render issue is the week calendar. That's basically the issue. Okay? But just like I said, this is not a if you want to go to something like to a tool that is way focused on React data, like the rendering, React DevTools is the tool for that. So as you can see here, this AI chat or this AI assistance is quite helpful. You basically don't need to go dig here, reading this render with hooks, yada yada. Basically, this is the week calendar, okay? But yeah, don't need to see those things if you're chatting here, okay? And then the React in version 19 also provides a new performance tracks, which is this one. So meaning, so I say, okay, if you go to this Chrome profiler is not good for which is true, because Chrome profiler, just like I said, it adds or it shows a lot of information. It's not only the render events, but with version 19, React performance tracks adds 8 tracks to show the render. So you can now see the render events of the week. So here in the Chrome profiler, which is before version 18 of React, you cannot see these components, but right now you can see now the render events here, which is quite good. Why? Because now you can correlate this. Let's say this week, this week calendar, it renders here, okay, and then you can correlate that it happened when this click event happened. It runs that component. So there's a correlation, which is quite good. So that's a React performance tracks. The problem is that you cannot chat here. Let's say I want to create a session and then AI chat. So we create a session for that week calendar. A while ago, what we did is we right-click, right? Right-click, debug with AI, start our chat. You cannot do that here. So if you want to use AI assistance to ask about render timings, render events, you cannot use it. But it's good that you can in the AI assistance can get those informations in the main thread. But the experience of not having, create something, make this as the context to a chat, you cannot do it here. You should still need to dig here. The problem that is that the render, the profiler data, the React profiler data, this one, I mean the React performance tracks are not part of this. So if you right click here, debug with chat, it only uses the data here. It doesn't include the data from this. Okay. So you can still know the start AI assistance using this chat. Here, the render. But if you want to go to more details about the render, this is quite limiting. React DevTools, on the other hand, this extension provides that. So it provides the data which is specific to React. But the problem is React DevTools doesn't have the AI assistance, which we can see in here how useful this AI assistant is, especially for the, not only, I mean, if you're a newcomer, now you have an AI assistant that you can use to analyze this. This is also helpful for seasoned developer that performance or profiler is part of their tools. Okay, because they can really leverage this. React Developer Tools doesn't have that. That doesn't have that AI chat assistance, which, just like I said, we can clearly see how useful it is if we're going to add it. And that's the project that I built, Redev. So Redev is a Chrome extension that integrates an AI chat assistant directly into React DevTools to help you analyze the React component hierarchies and debug performance bottleneck. So it's a different extensions embedded to React DevTools. Basically, my goal is I want to add this AI chat assistance into the React DevTools, but of course, I'm not part of the core team. That kind of feature is huge. That is not easy to add on the official React DevTools. So create Redev as a Chrome extension, which will be built on top of React DevTools, which has the chat assistant. So it's still a React DevTools, but it has the AI assistance panel. It lives on different extensions, like I said, because I cannot just add this one to the official. But yeah, the idea here, it's a new Chrome extension, which is a React DevTools with the AI chat assistant. So that's the Redev project. Okay. So before going to this, I will give you a demo. First is, by the way, this is not yet published on the Chrome extension. but we can test it now. So let's click this load unpack, and then let me just go to Redev, and then the package, and then go here. Select this one, and then let's go back to the iris build up, and then right now there's no RDT installed. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's reload it. We just installed it, and then now we can see these three tabs: the components, the profiler, and suspense. So the same thing. Redev is same thing. It's our React DevTools. We just add a new feature to that, and that's the chat assistant. So as you can see in here, there's now a chat panel here, where this is a panel that is powered by an agent. Okay. Without this, it's still a React DevTools. So if you're used to RDT with Redev, it's the same thing. It's a React DevTools with a chat interface. If we go to the profiler tab, it also has this chat interface. Meaning, let's say if you're in components, you click here, just ask, hey, you can just ask, hey, well, what's this component? You can see the week calendar is added as the contacts, right? You can do that. But before doing that, of course, this will not run. Send it. See this? Olama rejected the DevTools origin, something like that. But this is in settings issues. If you go here, this is an existing view settings. On the RDT, we add a new tab, which is the AI. See there? AI Assistant, the provider. We support two providers, the Olama Local and Open AI Codec subscription, which is obviously this is what we want. Okay. So there's a problem a while ago because it's basically we need to do some configuration with Olama if you're using Olama Local. Okay, but we don't like that. I mean, for this demo and even in this demo, I'm now using this. I want the codec subscription force because the model 5.6. So this settings tab, we use this one to configure the agent. So we choose provider, the codec subscription, and then the model. Of course, we want 5.6 Sol, which is a monster and very efficient model. And then the reasoning effort. Sign in with ChatGPT. Of course, we cannot use this one without signing in. But before that, let me change this to 25. This is turns. Okay, turns tool calls the maximum tool calls per question. I just want to increase this. Sign in. Let's try to sign in with ChatGPT. Okay, so this flow is quite common if you want to use codec subscription. Let's say in the Open Club, you want to use codecs. This is also the flow. Basically, you want to connect to this extension, our codec subscription, which fortunate for us, I do have. So this is the flow. Okay, so let's just log in, use this email, then let's just continue. And then there you go, here. And then let me just restart this. Because I already did this one a while ago, so no need to add the pin code. But if you're a first timer to load these extensions, you need to go to that flow. Either you use your Google Authenticator to get the code, or maybe on your email, you basically do that one. But because I already did this, so it doesn't need to do that. So after that, after signing in, let me go here again, and then go to components. Let's just see, it's already connected. We can disconnect, obviously, but we don't need that one. Don't like it. And then go it here again, and then ask about this component. So what's this component? So we are on the components tab. Obviously, on the components tab, clicking this one, it shows this is the week calendar, accepts these props, no props, and then these are the hooks rendered by this. It's quite limiting. If, let's say, I want to know what calendar is this. Yeah, and then I can go to the source codes, right? But with the chat interface that we added here, we don't need to go to the source codes. Okay, let's just do it like this. Send. Let's wait. Look at it. It's thinking. It uses this request, load skill, tool request, search element. So we added a tool calls for the components tab. That's all. We also define tool calls for the profiler. But let's go here and see. The selected components be calendar. It's correct. Mounted directly under app. It's a self-contained weekly. Display 7 days in 30 minutes. Yada yada. Opens create event dialog. Opens event details dialog. And then yeah, accepts no props and source it here. So with chat interface, you're not just going to get this kind of details, but of course also get these thorough details about week calendar. How about, let's say, what's the implementation of this week calendar? Can the chat get the source codes? Let's see. Oops, there's a tool called named get component source. And there you go. So it tries to break. And this is basically the implementations. This is the tool request, tool result. See, it shows the output because, take note, this extension is a Chrome extension. It doesn't have access on the file system. So how this chat gets the component source? Through this. The RDT already tracked the source file of a component. So meaning, in theory, we can just, the extension can download that bundles, get the source mapping, if there is a source mapping URL on that bundle, and then download the source map, and then reconstruct the source codes. So on the fly, it can reconstruct the source codes based on the information. So this is very important. So we leverage that file path here. And that's the reason why it knows or gets the component source because of this. So meaning this chat interface bridges the fiber tree, the live fiber tree, and also your source codes. Meaning using those information, the fiber data and also the source codes, use that one as part of the context to your agent, then that is a game changer. Because now it can basically explain, right? More detailed. So it shows here, because these are the states. It shows 4 states. So also say here, it's also 4 states, okay? So that's how, one of the use cases of AI chat for your components tab. And also, React component can accept children. Okay, if you want to build a components which is a quite reusable, sometimes this component accepts a slat prop or a children prop where it doesn't define its children. Instead, the consumer pass the children. If you use your agent to determine that component, it knows that this is the component, but it doesn't know what children is that without running it. So there's a gap because the agent, the AI in your source code doesn't know what's the children pass, right? That pass, it will only know at runtime. The AI chat knows, this chat knows what's the children pass to that component because it has an access to the output. So quite useful. Quite useful. Let's go to the profiler because this is basically the tab. I mean, this is the tab that initially I really want to add because of the performance. So, you know, as a front-end developer, optimizing a performance issue, that's basically part of my responsibilities. And I like doing it. Okay, I like doing it. So this is the reason that prompted me to, to have this idea of adding chat because of the profiler, because of the performance issue. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to use this chat interface to analyze the performance issue we have here. Just like I said, this is quite slow. Slow, slow, slow. So we want to use the chat interface to analyze that slowness, and then we'll ask how to improve this. And then we're going to implement that improvement to our source codes. Take note, it's still an AI, it can make mistakes, okay? But, let's see how this chat interface can do that. Now, if the first attempt gives a suggestion it will not work, then that's fine. We can still refine the the request, okay, until we get the output that we want. Okay, but the fact that there's already a chat interface here directly on in our RDT, that is quite, it's a game changer, at least for this tool. Okay, so our goal here is to record, analyze the performance issue, and then we'll seek a suggestion. Okay. So yeah, so what we're going to do is let's track it now, track it, and then click this one, click, and then stop it. So in that record, it records 11 commits, and then in the first commit, we can clearly see here that the week calendar renders 260 seconds, so it's quite slow. Self time 259. For the commit, what this? Yeah, commit 6, it's also 264, self time 255 milliseconds. So what we're going to do is, let's try to say this, something like, it's this. This recording session is quite slow. Can you help me analyze this recording? Pinpoint or point me to the bottleneck, and then provide on how to optimize the component, the components. Let's wait. Now it's processing our request. Loads or it calls these tools, get commit, get rendered cause, get component source. Consider now trying to get the source of the component. Then AI is now thinking. Let's just wait. Also track the, oops, let me stop here, okay? Because we forgot that we need to record the user interactions. Because the RDT, the current behavior of RDT is that it didn't track the user interactions, but we added this one so that we can correlate user interactions timings to the profiler. So we need this, we want to enable that. And then go to the profiler, we also want to enable this record white component rendered while profiling. We need those events, those timings here. Let's clear it up, and then let's reload it again, track it again, close. There you go. Oops, I forgot, but yeah. Analyze, tell me why this recording is quite slow. Point me to the bottleneck, and then suggest how to improve it. Let's wait. Let's wait. The max turns here is the number of tool calls for each question. Because here, that's the number, maximum, because it's quite common for the agent to call certain amount of tools to analyze, due to the fact that, you know, fiber, this provider data is huge. Okay, so yeah, basically try to call those tools. So let's go here. So the slowdown is overwhelmingly inside week calendar. Yeah, that's the self time. I mean, we can see here, right? 177 milliseconds. Week commit 177 milliseconds. We can also clearly see here that the information of the flame graph is correctly mapped here. So follow the click here, and then 177 milliseconds, and then another click, which took 201 milliseconds, at least for the week calendar. The week calendar component track run from roughly yada yada. Layout effects were only also track the layout effects. So here, so why week calendar is expensive? The source shows that every week calendar render rebuilds a large calendar subtree. Okay, so it say new closure, yada yada. There's also a concrete memorization issue. So creates a new visible events. Recommended improvement: isolate and memorize expensive grid. So something like that. So explain to you. So as a React developer, this is quite an insight, because the model or the agent, you know, tell you what's happened and, you know, gives you a recommended approach. Okay, and then there's also an ineffective use memo. Reduce slot node, work if it remains low. I reprofile the same interactions, yada yada. Okay, that's good. So what we can do is let's ask it again. Let's say click this one. Just that we know that the chat or the agent knows that there's a click. Okay, but you know, let's just add little add additional context for that. So basically, the week calendar I think got re-rendered when opening a dialog. Because we can see in here, I think, let's say components, general, highlight updates, as you can see in here. No. Yeah, okay. But yep, the week calendar I think got re-rendered when opening a dialog. So you know what? I think better to let's just skip that one, because I've been thinking to add additional context. Maybe before going to our agent on the CLI, we can basically, you know, add more information before optimizing it. But I think this is already yeah, I know that. Yeah. So when opening a dialog, the week calendar or closing a dialog, the week calendar gets re-rendered. Been thinking why it gets re-rendered in the first place. Why not just those dialog only renders? So aside from the above suggestion you did, because yeah, I noticed that it renders, right? It renders that week calendar. But why that component needs to render in the first place, right? So let's see, for that additional context, maybe the agent can provide an additional improvement. So aside from the above suggestion you did, can we do an optimization for that dialog? Let's see. Load skill, let's see what are the load skills. Wasted renders. Okay, so it loads that wasted renders. By the way, while waiting, our agent, I mean our AI assistant also supports skills. So you can add your skills here. If you have your own conventions for your React, for performance, or if your team has a convention for optimizing an app, you can add your skills here. Currently, it has 3 built-in skills, which is the React performance, wasted renders, and then the components debugging. So yeah. So let's wait. Let's wait. Let's wait. So our thoughts here is, I mean, what we're trying to do here is, let's try to analyze this using our chat. Then we're going to ask a prompt for our agent to optimize the suggestion. Because, you know, this chat doesn't have an edit capability. So we're going to use our own, the agent, which we're going to use Codex for that, to fix this. So let's see. Yes, the reason is where the dialog state currently lives. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's basically it. So everything, because I noticed that it gets rendered. Why that component gets rendered in the first place, right? So now it says that the reason is where the dialog state currently lives. So opening or closing dialog invokes one of those setters. Wrapping only the dialog moment will not solve this. Okay. Its event or start prop generally changes, and the expensive work happens in the parent before React reaches the dialog. So make the dialog owns its open state. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is create me an agent prompt for this improvement, for all the improvement suggestions. And then we're going to copy that prompt, and then let's go here. Let's use Codex. Let's just skip that one. Let's continue. And then here, you can just copy this. And then yeah, as you can see in here, it's not only because the agent in our RDP already it knows how the components got implemented. So as you can see in here on the prompt, it's not just a higher level details, but the prompt also provides, you know, see the concrete durations, concrete data. This data are coming from the Fiber data. So as you can see, I mean, from the provider. So on the prompt, it also included, this is quite useful for the codex here. So let me copy this, and then I think, is it? Let's wait. Yeah, we do have some issues on the markdown rendering because I didn't install any markdown package. Okay, but we can refine this one. We can still refine this. Yeah, I think it's good now. All right, so let's copy this thing. Where is it? Copy and then go here, and let's paste. Pasted cars. Why is it 12,000? That's just huge. Characters. Or maybe can you make the prompt a little bit concise? Okay, so let's say here, let's wait. Yeah, the rendering. We really need to improve the rendering. So optimize the React week calendar. It's primary bottlenecks is in here. The insights is part of, the actual information is part of this prompt, which is kind of cool. You cannot do that here. Okay, let's say optimize the week calendar. You don't have that actual data, right? But here you can. And it shows the relevant files. So let's wait for, let's copy this and then paste it. Do this. Use 5.6 hole, by the way. So these are the expectation, dialog open, close, and input changes do not render week calendar. Creating an event, changing weeks, still render week calendar because, yeah, that's true. Meaning when clicking this. So let's say, let's just wait a little bit. Let's wait for the agent. But before waiting for that, let's try to read the prompt. So do this, optimize the React week calendar based on the following React DevTools evidence. So week calendar is the primary bottleneck, 2 commits. Calendar, opening and closing and dialog update state owned by week calendar, causing the entire calendar to render. Effects were negligible. The bottleneck is render work. Meaning, because it also tracks the effects, like the layout effects, passive effects, it says that there's no bottleneck from that. Relevant files that we're going to touch this one. So as you can see in here, the agentic, this agent already gives or a hint to our codecs what will be the files that will be touched by this optimization. So required changes, isolate dialog state. Okay. So refactor both dialogs to own their open content state. Okay, and we can replace something like that. Code, keep dialog, and then another. Reduce repeated render work. Hoist calculations that repeat inside the slot loop. For example, calculate each day's formatted accessibility label once per day rather than once per slot. Preserve semantic buttons. Okay, so accessibility, eh? That's good. Fix ineffective memoization. So there's also optimizations, and then extract and memorize the calendar grid. Move the expensive grid into a memo wrap. Okay. Pass the stable callbacks created with use callbacks. Okay. That's good. So let's see. Is it? No. So while waiting, the question here is, why not just give this this chat interface and access to the source codes? First and foremost, you cannot do that because extension, just like I said, it's a Chrome extension. Chrome extension doesn't have an access on the file system, so you cannot do that. Second, that's not an easy task. So even that, let's say extension doesn't already have an access to the source codes, so it can edit. So we can think that we can basically do some edits here, right? Updating. Only here, you don't need maybe the codecs. It's not an easy fit because there's a real security risk there. Okay? Because now your model has an access not only to the source codes but also for the fiber tree. If there's a prompt injection on the fiber tree, then that will be a problem. So that's one of the issue if you give an edit. Okay, but of course, prompt injection, maybe we can resolve that one, but that is a real potential issue if we give an edit capability. At least right now, it's more on read. So even that there's a prompt injection there on your, but most of the time, there's no prompt injection, right? Because you're going to use this most of the time on dev. Okay, so the application that you're trying to debug is your own application. Okay, but I'm going to show you how we can use this even for the prod. So the prompt injection will be a problem there, okay? But yep, even that there's a prompt injection, considering that our agent is a read-only tool, then that problem is not an issue anymore. Let's go back here. Moving on to the coverage now, the existing tile still targets the old stars, so I'm replacing Okay, I think we can still, we can now do this. I mean, we can now test this one. Let's see. So it should stays the same because we're just trying to optimize the performance here. So we just reload it. And then let's go here. Chrome performance. Click this. Great. Highlights, we don't want that. Try again. Click, open, close. There you go. It's already green. A while ago, it's red. Now it's green. Green, green, green. Green. Create an event. Save. Where is it? So we still have an issue when saving. Okay. But, you know, opening, closing is now a green INP. But of course, we can still improve this one. And now we can see now how the AA chat interface helps us debug the issue. See that one? There you go. So yeah, win-win for the React developers. The Redev is still an RDT with chat interface. Okay, so we can basically use that Redev, by the way, here. Let's say just go to the components tab, and then you can ask, what page is this? Something like that. So if you're, let's say if you're in the phase of studying a web application, considering you don't know how does it work, right? Basically, this RDT, especially the components, you can use this to get information. But of course, just like I said, in terms of the component source, it relies on the bundled codes. So on the production, it's minified code. Source maps is not enabled. So